Humans on Earth lived in accordance with an advanced knowledge of systems of energy resonance and cymatics. The angelic human culture of Lemuria, Atlantis, Egypt and Tartaria were actually much more technologically advanced than now, and were based upon principles of the law of one and syntropy. Syntropy refers to the open-source architecture of free energy made available to replenish any loss of energy that may occur in the management of a system, in order to retain the balanced functioning within all of its component parts. With an open mind, we must consider the possibility that our history is wrong. Our timelines are wrong. More of our hidden human history as consciousness slaves is being revealed. Although the Atlantean cataclysm and Sumerian Egypt invasion are historical timeline trigger events that brought on the dark eon of negative alien invasion, it has been clarified that the advanced angelic human culture was using free energy devices, cymatics and high-technology disciplines from the height of Atlantis, and that the total obliteration of this knowledge from out of public view was actually very recent. It was only a few hundred years ago, when this knowledge of free energy and cymatics became secret and totally forbidden, and those that knew the power of sound and free energy were completely erased from our history. Tesla came to help humanity regain this knowledge over 120 years ago. There was a hidden agenda to erase all evidence in our public records and any semblance of our accurate timelines that reflected access to free energy devices, which was completely decimated by the intruding races and their representatives. Humanity has undergone several more cycles of destruction of our historical records subsequent to the Atlantean flood, which is the pact of the Luciferian covenant. After the Christos mission project connected with Yeshua returning the true Essen records back to humanity, a pernicious religion was introduced in the counterfeit name of Christ. The Vatican operates as an Italian mafia, scouring the planet for any riches to plunder, hoarding artifacts and evidence of our past, while introducing the approved narratives of the Church, all the while hiding historical records in the underground vaults meant only for their priesthood. The Church of Rome, and the manipulation of the amnesic population were adopted by setting up the control pillars of society that are used for the ongoing indoctrination of propagating the false histories. The Octagon Group considers themselves royalty originally from Italian bloodlines going back to the Brotherhood of the Snake, so there is a deep connection with the Vatican and managing its massive global financial dealings. The Brotherhood of the Snake secretly and methodically infiltrated the angelic human culture and stole the high technological knowledge from Atlantis for themselves. The Octagon Group evolved from out of the Brotherhood, and they have been put in charge of orchestration and intentionally confiscating the records and rewriting history in every potential growth cycle, in the planned takeover of the Earth. They call this the culling, when they decide it is time for the useless eaters to be killed for blood sacrifice, as they have decided now under this cycle of their planned Great Reset. Since Atlantean times, the negative alien groups and the preferred bloodlines have been hiding this ancient knowledge and murdering those that had this knowledge. This was the secret pact behind the Atlantean conspiracy. The conspiracy goes much further than just covering up the Atlantean timelines, and into all unapproved narratives that reveal truth or evidence about our advanced technology and access to free energy that is in our past. Not to mention the practices of blood sacrifice, blood drinking, human trafficking, pedophilia and child sacrifice these creatures are involved in and conspiring to hide from the public. We can see the same tactics of brute force control today. If an unapproved topic goes public that shines truth on the nefarious plans and criminally deviant lifestyle they deny, attack and reverse the victim to become the offender, and viciously persecute anyone that dare provide testimonial evidence or speak up truthfully. Moral courage sources from a profoundly deep spiritual bond with our God Creator. This is the time for developing ourselves mentally, emotionally and spiritually in order to build the inner strength required for the moral and spiritual courage to face the truth. The educational and academic system is based upon the textbooks provided for and approved by the elite that reinforce the falsified histories that dumb students down and mold them to grow into adulthood as obedient and predictable employees or worker slaves. The General Education Board, founded in 1903, provided major funding for schools across the country and was especially active in promoting the state-controlled public school system able to mold society by funding and pushing compulsory state schooling for the masses. Up until the 1840s, the American school system was mainly private, decentralized, and homeschooling was common. Americans were well educated and literacy rates were high. The General Education Board and other corporate foundations including the Carnegie Foundation provided major funding for schools across the nation and was very influential in shaping the curriculum and format of the current school system. Predictably, the board started to exert strong control on the policies of the state educational institutions based upon their funding and research grants, placing demands on standardizing courses and inventing a bureaucratic maze of conditions and educational reforms. Those teachers, schools, universities and researchers that took the funding and did what they were told were greatly rewarded, and they quickly advanced to be placed in charge. The resulting system of schooling creates the receptivity to mind control tactics that are used to obeying commands, but not rewarded for thinking critically. This is just what the controllers had in mind. This means that due to many factors such as an overload of stress, media literacy skill sets are very low. Many adults are unable to discern, comprehend or synthesize the information they are reading, and thus rely on the televised propaganda churned out by the controllers' mainstream media broadcasts of CIA-owned news anchors. The ancient world and our predecessors had access to a universal system of measurement that was understood as the geodetic mathematical knowledge of the planet, which was used in city planning and performing amazing feats of architecture. That geodetic knowledge included awareness of ley lines, stargates, plasma domes, Platonic solid math and Semitic-based architectural principles that harnessed free energy, which was the foundation of angelic human civilization. Geodesy is the Earth's science of accurately measuring and understanding Earth's geometric shape, orientation in space and gravitational field, as well as the physics of energy movement in space and time. The knowledge base in the field also incorporates studies of how these properties change over time and with exposure to a variety of forces, as they have also defined the equivalent measurements for other planets. It is made clear that the ancient builder races or master builders understood Earth's fundamental geodetic parameters on a level not equaled until the advent of modern satellite surveys, and still the builders of today could not perform the many feats of many architectural wonders that we can see were left for us to reflect upon today. The intentional uglification of our world is used to incite dehumanization through chaos and depression, in which this agenda seems to have suddenly arisen with a fury through mass-produced utilitarianism. Cement jungles of small pod apartments stacked up like coffins and statues of twisted steel shards and massive metal arachnids supposedly reflecting the height of popular modern art forms. That's art, they tell us. We're supposed to admire and appreciate that twisted metal statue or piece of the graffiti art on the wall with a public price tag of multiple millions. These examples of deconstruction in action are the essence of anti-beauty and anti-art forms. Instead, they are designed to instill oppression, fear and sadness coming from the deviant mind of the predator. With an open mind, we must consider the possibility that our history is wrong. Our timelines are wrong. Many of the exquisite architectural wonders we still have some access to see on the planet are misdated. The timeline is wrong and the credit is given to the inheritors assigned as the cover story, long after its original creation. Pisa is said to have chronological estimates dated back to the reign of Khufu and his pyramid roughly between 2700 and 2500 BC. This information given to the public is connected to the Controller's Pact of the Atlantean Conspiracy, so that all resulting buildings and architecture which might inform the public of the free energy devices used through cymatic principles of the ancient builder races are to be confused, erased, and in their place, a foolish narrative fed to the unsuspecting public that has been sufficiently mind-wiped of the true past. The Great Pyramid is nearly 50,000 years old and was built with geodetic knowledge and cymatic principles common from Atlantis. The pyramid was functioning as a harmonic energy resonator in the prime meridian location of the planet. Further, marking this location as the main solar stargate and defining the prominent vertical connection to the Great White Lion Network, which the Sphinx is designed to represent. Geodesy was incorporated within many ancient sacred sites and buildings across the world, in which indisputable evidence is found in the mathematical measurements of the constructions as aligned to the coordinate location points of the meridians or ley lines. The sciences have been captured for a very long time, so that any developed and curious minds that challenge the narrative will find themselves out of a job and blacklisted from their career. If ancient humans were primitive creatures in the Dark Ages without technology as mainstream science tells us, then how were these incredible ancient buildings and massive monolithic structures made possible? The methods of the ancient master builders were utilizing sacred geometry and geodetic knowledge to create structures that resonated with the Earth's energy field, and because these structures were harmonically attuned to the Earth's natural field, they amplified the higher consciousness and healing properties that restore and maintain energetic balance, by using the geometric patterns found in the divine laws of nature. The science of resonance is a science of harmony, that which designs and creates structures and things that vibrate according to certain frequencies, and those frequencies would be attuned to the gradually changing frequencies of the planetary body and her evolutionary growth cycles. It's time to return this knowledge back to our children, and Tesla's massive body of work in free energy will be restored to the public once again for the upliftment and betterment of humanity. There is a lot of varied information that is already made available on Nikola Tesla, in which the spiritual and other communities have generally regarded him as a hero of humanity with his incredible efforts to assist in the return of free energy to our civilization nearly 120 years ago. Limitless energy access was common knowledge in the advanced culture of the human race, which ended during the Atlantean cataclysm. The Great Pyramid was designed to be a giant harmonic frequency resonator sending out geometric patterns into the planetary grid, as well as a consciousness transport device for those embodied with higher operating DNA strands. The Great Pyramid lies in the exact center of all land area of the globe, dividing the Earth's land mass into approximately equal quarters. Tesla was aware the planet was a giant energy generator spinning around two magnetic poles, in which limitless access to free energy could be harnessed for all of humanity. He believed that the ionospheric layers were important in harnessing atmospheric electricity, which could be easily tapped into wirelessly, which could generate free energy for many global energy applications. Based in his study of the Giza pyramids, Tesla designed his towers created upon the same mathematical proportions of Giza, in accordance to the laws used in its construction that were based on the location in the grid and its relationship to the equator band. From this he knew that a source of free energy could be harnessed from the planet and transmitted as a global power source wirelessly. Tesla's discoveries and free energy devices were confiscated by the government, and his body of work disappeared after his death in 1943. His work in this world is far from being completed, and in the near future we will be hearing about more of the advanced technologies that were developed through his original blueprints that were hidden from the masses. Mud flood and Tartaria. Many maps of the past few centuries depict a large country called Tartaria, that was depicted in northern Asia, but their highly advanced architectural signature is found all over the world. The history of Tartaria points to the possibility that they were an advanced civilization using free energy and technological devices similar to Atlantean culture, and so this disrupts the official narrative. The existence of Tartaria was erased from the historical records about 120 years ago, and this country is never mentioned in the history classroom. Although naysayers will say this doesn't matter, indeed it does. It points yet again to factual evidence in the ways our recent history was and is being manipulated and crafted for serving a purpose that is not in support of humanity. The advanced architecture designed for atmospheric energy extraction is derived from what appears to be the civilization's last remnants of structural evidence that have been found by researchers looking at the earliest articles and old photographs located throughout different nations' historical archives. Most of these magnificent buildings and towers have various antennae and copper or metal domes which seem to be partially buried in a barren mud landscape with a few bewildered onlookers. Some of these similar tower designs for generating wireless energy can be found in old photographs taken during the period from the mid-1800s to about 1912 circulated in the mud flood community. The very few black and white photos that managed to survive of post-Atlantis technologies that were using Semitic principles for extremely sophisticated levels of building architecture were shown to be used in the area previously known as Tartaria, in which this evidence somehow evaded detection and was not confiscated by the controllers. We are living through yet another attempt at a great reset scheduled in their orchestrated plan to be complete by 2030, filled with timeline deceptions and historical facts and records that are being erased in front of our eyes, as they have done many times before. Thank you for taking the time watching this video. Thank you.